In the Pikmin series, there are many Easter eggs to be found. They could be as easy to spot as the treasures based on real-life objects in Pikmin 2, or as obscure as the wrecked Pikmin 2 ship in the Pikmin 3 Quaggled Meyerclops boss arena. But my favorite is that most areas in each game represent one of the 4 seasons, and the one season that stands out to me the most are the autumn-based areas, those being the Twilight River and the Wistful Wild. The beautiful autumn colors and the calm environments of both areas stand out from among the rest. But which of the 2 areas is the best? To find the answer to this question, I will be comparing the 2 areas in 5 different categories, those being the scenery, the music, the enemies and wildlife, the gameplay and puzzles, and finally the story and the reason why you're there in the first place. After deciding which area is the best in each category, I will add up the points to find out which of the 2 is definitively the best autumn area in all of Pikmin. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first section to compare the 2 areas in is the environments. Now the first thing you'll probably notice is that the graphics of the Twilight River look objectively better. And that's because the Twilight River is a part of Pikmin 3, which came out almost an entire decade later than the Wistful Wild, which gave plenty of time to develop the graphics. But the Wistful Wild doesn't have bad looks by any means. The terrain is very nice looking and also more vertical than other areas, which is unique for a game that is more linear and flat. But unfortunately for the Wistful Wild, it does feel kinda small. And that could be because the Wistful Wild is made up of the 2 smallest areas in Pikmin 1, being the impact site and the final trial. From this map I'll put on screen now, you can see where the impact site and final trial line up in the Wistful Wild. Now while this is a cool Easter egg, it does make the area very small, like I said before, which leaves the caves to make the area feel big. But the caves are a separate thing, so I won't really be talking about them, which leaves the Wistful Wild with almost nothing to show. While in the Twilight River, there's plenty of area to explore, like the beautiful rivers with giant lily pads. The autumn colors of the Twilight River also look more vibrant and comforting, which makes it all the more better to explore. Plus, the Twilight River has some cutscenes, namely the cutscene that plays when you leave the first area, which gives you an almost legendary view of the giant tree stump where you fight the Scornet Maestro, which is just absolutely breathtaking, which perfectly solidifies the Twilight River winning the Environment Award. When it comes to the music of these 2 areas, it's really hard to compare them because they're both so different from each other. The Wistful Wild's music is very loud and fast compared to the slow-paced and chill music of the Twilight River. The Wistful Wild is the 4th and last area in Pikmin 2, which leads it to have a more dangerous and complicated environment, and the music does a good job to complement that. But sometimes even the music feels complicated. The sound is constantly changing, and if you look at the official version of it on YouTube, there are 13 different versions of the song that can play, ranging from if you're in a battle or carrying treasure, to if you happen to be near a spider wart, which is one of those weird web things on the ground in some places that prevent ultra spicy and ultra bitter berries from growing. So sometimes the music just is all over the place, but it still complements the area very well. While on the other hand, with the Twilight River, the music is consistent and super relaxed, which makes exploring the Twilight River an experience like none other. And the music is so good that I even like to listen to it outside of the game, and I don't really listen to other Pikmin songs outside of the game. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know that I like to use this song wherever I can. So if you couldn't tell already, the Twilight River easily takes the music award as well. Next up is the wildlife of the areas, which basically means the enemies in the areas. Probably one of the first things you'll notice about the Wistful Wild is that the enemies there are very powerful. It feels like the game is not even trying to be fair anymore, because literally right outside of the landing site for the area is a Gatling Groink, which is one of the hardest and most annoying non-boss enemies due to its shield that protects its face and the fact that it can revive if left alone for too long. And then later, while gathering the treasures in the area, you'll come across an enclosed area with not 1, but 2 orange bulbwarbs, which are the most annoying bulbwarbs in my opinion, because they wake up if you even get within 100 feet of them. At least that's what it feels like. And on top of those 2 orange bulbwarbs, there's also a withering blowhog there just to annoy you. Now another notable thing about the enemies here is that they're very distinct when compared to enemies in other areas. Like I said before, there's withering blowhogs, hermit crawdads, cloaking baronets, fiery and watery blowhogs, and much more. Where else in the entire series do you see this much diversity in enemies? Definitely not the Twilight River, I'll tell you. While the Wistful Wild is plentiful in enemies, it feels almost scarce in the Twilight River. It feels as though there are only a few enemies in each section of the map, and that combined with how easy Pikmin 3 is, makes the enemies die super fast, and then it's even more desolate than before. And don't even get me started on the Scornet Maestro. This boss is without a doubt the easiest main boss in Pikmin 3, which makes it both boring and feel like a waste of time. So without a doubt, the Wistful Wild wins the Wildlife Award. Now on to the puzzle section. We started with the Wistful Wild last time, so let's start with the Twilight River this time. The puzzles here are some of the most interesting in the whole series, and it's all because of one key feature: the lily pads. The lily pads add so much variety to the kinds of puzzles that can occur here. There's traveling to another side of a wall on a lily pad, carrying bridge pieces from one side of the river to another on a lily pad, lifting a branch up to create a stream of lily pads to take you to another section of the river, throwing Pikmin onto a mushroom from a lily pad, throwing Pikmin back onto a lily pad from said mushroom, and much more. Other than the lily pads though, there isn't much more than a generic bridge puzzle. But even a generic bridge puzzle is better than anything the Wistful Wild has puzzle related. Since Pikmin 2 is built around caves, it feels as though the main areas were more of a second thought to the caves, and that is best shown in the Wistful Wild. There is nothing here. Unless you count smacking a wall as a puzzle, then there really is nothing here. And if you do count that as a puzzle, then you probably think it's fun to watch grass grow. Normally I would talk more in this section, but there just isn't anything else left to say. So let's give the Twilight River its puzzle award and move on. Now finally, for the final section of the comparison, we have the story of the area, aka the entire reason you're here. When you first arrive in the Twilight River, you've just saved Captain Charlie from the Behemoth Phosbat, and while Charlie was stuck there, he found a data file from none other than Captain Olimar himself, saying that he found a key of some sorts, which just so happens to be the cosmic drive key that Alph and the others need in order to get off the planet. So they go hunt down Olimar, which leads them to the one and only Twilight River. And while at the Twilight River, they must use wing Pikmin to lift a branch that lets the lily pads go further downstream, like I said earlier. And after lifting the branch, you receive a message from the one and only Captain Olimar, kinda. It's really Louie who is Olimar's sidekick that goes on in with his trips, but the Copites assume that it's Olimar, even though Louie literally calls for Olimar to save him during the message, so why would Louie be calling for himself? Anyway, Louie is panicking and freaking out about a creature that's followed him to the top of a nearby tree. Then the message cuts off after he says that the creature is back, so you make your way through the rest of the Twilight River to get to the top of the tree. And once you arrive, you find Olimar, Louie, passed out, and then you fight the Scornet Maestro, aka the easiest boss ever. Then after that, you bring Louie back to the ship and blast off, and that's it for the Twilight River. Now on the other hand, you'll never guess what you have to do story-wise in the Wistful Wild. You're also here to save Louie, except this time you're not told how, you're just told to go find him. And you're not really told where either, so it feels really tedious searching for him. And then eventually you find him in the Dream Den and get out. And you still don't exactly get to leave until you get all the treasure, so really the whole reason you're in the Wistful Wild is the same as every other area in Pikmin 2, and that's just to grab stuff, which gets really boring and is very hard to feel motivated to do. So basically what I'm saying is, it would be a crime if the Twilight River didn't win this, so the story award goes to the Twilight River. And that wraps up the comparisons. Let's count up the awards and declare the winner, and that winner is obviously the Twilight River with 4 awards. This is the first comparison I've done where an area won with more than 3 trophies, so this wasn't even a close match. I still have a soft spot in my heart for the Wistful Wild, and I like the area, but the Twilight River is just objectively better and more enjoyable to explore. Also, if you've watched or are going to watch my ranking video of all the main areas in Pikmin, just know that my opinion might have changed a little, and the Wistful Wild and Twilight River have switched places on the ranking now. But with that, I've been AQB Rhino, and I'll see you in the next one.